welcome. The next web shortlisted a list of talents, 500 talents in the Dutch digital scene, and we have one of the talents here on stage. This is Jonathan Knechtel, head of growth at Dealco.
Hi.
We have Janneke Niesen, entrepreneur and ambassador for the T500. We have Robert van Hussel, founder of Crowded, sorry. Robert van Hussel, Timo Koenen, Accenture, managing director. Welcome.
Hi to you
well,
all.
we have a few entrepreneurs and a few working as employees here on stage. What is the difference according to you? Anyone who feels up to answer that question?
The risk. I think the risk you take. When you're an entrepreneur, you put in all your money and well, everything you have. And I think since I'm an entrepreneur, then a lot of people want to tell you that one day they also want to be an entrepreneur. And you talk with them, and sometimes people say that for years and never really do it, because they always have a reason why it's not the right moment, or their mortgage, or that thing. And I really think that when you're an entrepreneur and you have the right idea, then you don't have excuses. You only have reasons to do it, and you just go all in. So if that's not the case, then maybe you're not an entrepreneur or you have the wrong idea. And I think that's also fine, but yeah, I think taking the risk is the most important thing. Be willing to go all in with everything you have, because you believe really, truly in your idea.
Do you think about it the same way, Timo? Or how do you see the difference?
I think to a certain extent I do. I think it takes quite a lot of guts to be an entrepreneur. I think, like you say, you're all in. But it doesn't mean, basically I don't see the distinction as black and white between being an entrepreneur or working for a boss. I think you can be entrepreneurial working for a larger company like I do at Accenture. But I think you have to also create that room for yourself and, let's say, take the opportunity to be an entrepreneur even if you're working for a boss. But I mean, there's a clear distinction. And I think that people really have to give it a good thought and make up their minds before they take whatever step within their either new career or, let's say, progressing in their careers.
Does it require a specific skill set to be an entrepreneur?
Well, first of all, I think as an entrepreneur, and definitely like in the later stage of the company, when you're trying to move your product into new spaces and your company into new spaces and doing things for the first time, that you have to have a very broad interest. Rather than very deep skills as an entrepreneur. So you need to be able to connect opportunities with ideas, how to solve them with the right people. So, well, maybe the one main skill is like being able to connect the dots, which might be a bit of a cliche sounding phrase, but I think really that's the most important thing of being an entrepreneur, is seeing opportunities, seeing the right people with the right moment, the right market, and the right steps to take, and kind of work with that in a strategic way.
Right. Sophia Winkren, the speaker before, she just said we have to keep on learning. I always have the feeling that as an employee, you get to learn less than when you're an entrepreneur. How do you guys think about that?
Well, I think personally learning is the most important skill you can have as a young entrepreneur, because you need to learn at every single opportunity. And having tried to found my own company as well as being an employee and a freelancer, it's always a mix and match of the different routes that you can take. But when you are an employee, obviously you have someone telling you what to do. And this obviously limits the directions that you can go in. But at the end of the day, as long as you have a trust with the person that is employing you and they let you go in the directions that you want, you can in fact still be an entrepreneur. And this is what in major and larger companies, they call this intrapreneurship. But even at a small startup of 5 people, this is still a really strong feeling that you get.
Well, I disagree a little bit that when you work somewhere, that somebody tells you what to do. I think you're not like a sort of a slave. You still have your own destiny in your own hands. And that also applies to learning. So when you, I think, as an employee and as an entrepreneur, you need to make sure that you stay relevant. And you have to make sure that you think about how you can stay relevant, what education you need, also when you work somewhere. And if your employer doesn't want to give you that, then you go somewhere else. Because otherwise, in a few years, you're not necessary anymore nowhere. So it's important that you take that under control yourself.
Yeah.
Robert, go ahead.
Yeah.
If you're not learning, leave.
Well, I think on that topic, I truly believe you can learn quite a lot in a big company. I am sometimes quite jealous of the good traineeships some companies give to talented people. But I think it touches an interesting aspect. You say learning is most important. In our startup, we were 4 people, but we decided we're in this to learn. So our main output of the company on short term is learning new things. And you can have that in a company as well. But the main difference between being an entrepreneur and working for a company is that you can decide that what you think is important and create the surroundings for that to happen. And as an employee, you have to kind of wiggle around and find the space which fits what you have in mind as your goal for the coming period. And I think that's one of the biggest differences, is that you can create your own setting as an entrepreneur, and as an employee you kind of have to find the match somewhere else.
Timo, do you think ambitious employees are like entrepreneurs as well? They create their own...
Yeah, I think so. I think there's clear benefits of working for a larger company. I think there's a lot of shared knowledge. Usually you work in teams, and what I really like is to work in multidisciplinary teams, so basically people that I meet with very different skills to mine, and I learn from them. So I learn from my seniors, but I also learn from the people that just joined Accenture, which have a totally, let's say, totally different view on the world and totally different mindset, and they learn me something as well. So I think there's clear benefits, I think, for the both, depending on what your ambition is. But from a learning perspective, when I look at myself, I think I really learn a lot constantly. And I agree. I think once you stop learning, it's really time, let's say, to make it the balance and see maybe look out for something else.
Yeah, or start your own company, right?
Yeah, that's
I
also
think
what happens, of course.
that's also an interesting topic to cover. Maybe, like, I think there are a lot of people working at a company because it gives them maybe some safe place, like safe environment to develop, build a network, build skills, but maybe later on want to start a company. And I think that moment of transition is a very interesting topic, and maybe something people also struggle a lot with. So when do you quit your job, or when do you want to start your company? And I think, I don't know if you have any experience with that. I never really quit somewhere to go build my own company, but I'm quite interested in if you have any experience with that. Do you think about starting your own company after this?
I think very much so, quite a lot actually, and I get confronted quite a lot saying, because you're an employee, you're not an entrepreneur, and I'm like, well, actually my opinion is, if someone's paying me to learn and they're giving me the experience, I'm actually going to try and absorb as much as possible, because when I do go and found a company, I already have a lot of boxes checked in terms of experience. And that's also where I see a lot of young founders who go and try and start their own startup, but then they quite quickly run into these troubles where they're kind of like, okay, what should I do now? What should I do next? And that's because they just don't have any real-world experience actually working in a company, which I see as a major downside of young founders, because they have a lot of enthusiasm. I think everyone in this room will agree with me with that the young people are really trying to build the future and they're really excited about it. But are they actually the best people to go and build that product? And that's why it's also often that they then go and hire the expertise that may be older than them and have more relevant experience.
Well, I quit, I worked somewhere and then quit a long time ago to start my first company. And that was the time when being an entrepreneur was totally uncool. Because everybody told me, no, don't do it, you have a mortgage, you have a job, why would you start your own company? These days that's different. For me, it didn't really matter, because I believed in what we were going to do. And to your point, yes, of course, you make mistakes, but you learn, and you can get experience by building a company. It's at your own expense. That's maybe the downside, but I don't think that's per se a problem. And when I look at people that work at our company and start their own, it is a pity, of course, that they leave, but it also makes us proud that we create an environment where people feel they can also do that and also can build something cool and
Yeah.
learn use what they learned at our company.
How do you all stimulate entrepreneurship or employeeship? You have people working for you?
Yeah, so I think what is really important that you have to allow people to fail, and that they shouldn't be punished for trying something and then it doesn't work out. And I think that's sometimes a problem in big companies. When you try something there and you fail, it doesn't really help your career. It actually often damages your career. And that should not be the case, because from the 100 things you try, 95 will fail. But you need to find these, well, you need to try these 100 to find these 5. So I think you should have a different approach to that. But yeah, maybe you have a different view being in a big
a slightly
company.
different view, because I think that today, again, I don't think that the distinction is as black and white. If I look at myself and look at Accenture, we work for clients. So they hire us to try and to achieve a goal. That doesn't mean that, let's say, the path toward that goal is already laid out. So you know where you are, you know the end state where you want to be, and there's quite some room for maneuvering on how to get there. And that means within certain boundaries, I guess, you can be really entrepreneurial.
So there's room for exploration and experimenting.
Yeah, very much so. And I think not just Accenture as a company is really investing in that, but I also see is that we are more and more collaborating with startups. So we closely work together with a lot of startups, also helping them to, let's say, to scale and bring them to market, and we learn from them. So basically, I think the typical mindset and those skills, of course, we try to incorporate and to apply to ourselves. And I think the days where, let's say, being the old-fashioned, highly administrative, kind of dusty organization, I think these days are really long way behind us.
But I think I just want to add, also being a young entrepreneur, it's also you put a lot of responsibility on yourself to not make any mistakes and to try and stop those types of things happening. And if you do then go and fail, it can be really hard, and that may actually discourage you from trying to do this again in the future. Whereas as an employee and maybe as a freelancer, you have a little bit more of a box, of a sandbox that you can play in and make more mistakes in a, let's say, quote unquote, safer environment.
I think I disagree a bit on that part.
Okay.
Because when we do fail a lot at Crowded. That's the way you learn new things. But when you run into trouble, or a server goes down, or you have a bug in production, or whatever is happening that shouldn't be there, nobody notices. So you can just fail without having to talk to a manager about your failure and having to evaluate things heavily. And I think there's a kind of a mindset or a character that you can have, where you try to go head first into problems and just try everything that works until it works. And that I don't really have the idea that's the kind of approach that can work in bigger companies, when there's just like a set expiration date for the project and a set budget. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you can basically use your limitless resources and burn down your own, burn yourself down. That's how far you can go to keep on failing and trying until it works. And there is a certain limit to that, I think, in bigger companies.
And I think it's important, to your point, that you make sure you have a network with other entrepreneurs, so you can discuss these things, and it's not just you. Because what you read in the press, all comes from PR marketing department, so it's all the shiny news. And behind the scenes, all these things happen. And when you have a good network of entrepreneurs, you know that everybody runs into the same things, and that makes you feel less alone and won't make you not try again.
Yeah, I agree on that one. I really think that's one of the benefits of a company, that you have a lot of people around you where you can learn from. And being an entrepreneur can be really, really lonely, because you prefer building your company and making it succeed most of the times over quitting early in the day and go out with friends. So it's really a heavy situation to be in, where in a company there are all kinds of social activities organized, and they really want you to feel happy and in a nice place.
Yeah. How can you build your life in such a way that you can explore what you like and what you can do as a professional? And how can you find out you're in a good place?
When there's nothing else you would rather do than what you do today, then you know you're absolutely in the right place.
Are you guys?
I think I
definitely.
was going to say, yeah, my moment came recently. You know, I got up in the morning, I put my headphones on, I was walking to deal room, and I was listening to a SaaS podcast, and I was like, why am I listening to a sad SaaS podcast on a Monday morning walking to work? And I was like, oh yeah, because I want to. And then I was like, okay, then this is the right direction. But it's a process that I think a lot of people just have to go through a lot, and you have to try a lot of different things, because your mother, your grandfather, whoever, you all know this, they all tell you to go in a certain direction, but you never actually know in your heart until you've gone and done it.
Thank you. How about spare time and freedom? Do you have more spare time or less as an entrepreneur or employee? How do you feel that? You're flexible as an entrepreneur most of the time?
No, you're not.
I can imagine.
No.
Of course, I can only
That's
imagine.
a big misconception about being an entrepreneur, that people say, oh, you can decide when you work and what you do. No, you can decide the 18 hours a day you need to work. You can decide which 18 hours those are. But especially when you're a startup and you're building up your company, that's your main focus. And of course, at a certain point, and that's healthy, there's more time to do other things. But the first years are just...
And then where does work end and life begin for you? Where do you begin then as a person? If you just work.
Yeah, I don't really approach it like that. People ask me all the time, what are your hobbies? But I do a lot on the side with getting girls enthusiastic for girls, and get more women in tech. And well, is that work or is that hobby? It's as long as I do what I really enjoy and I have time to see my friends and family, I'm okay. I don't look at strict boundaries. But that's me. That doesn't work for everybody.
And you, Timur, you have more strict private and work life, or it also...
I can imagine it is more strict than being, let's say, in the early stages of a startup, where I agree that probably all your free time goes into your company. But also here, I think, compared to 10 years ago, I think it's, one goes more into the other. And I think with the new tools and being online, I think you have to find a balance. Yeah. And when it comes to, let's say, being in the right place, I think everyone has to make up their mind for themselves. I think if you're passionate about something, if you really truly believe in certain things that you want to do, I think with that comes, let's say a feeling of responsibility, of feeling responsible for something and taking ownership of trying to get there. And I think that's going to make you successful, either being an entrepreneur or, let's say, within a company working for a boss.
Thank you. What was your most important career lesson along the way?
I think my most important career lesson is tell, don't hide. Meaning you're going to run into troubles whenever, it can always happen. And I think the benefit that I have for working for a larger company is that there is always support. But I think the most important thing is don't walk away from your struggles, don't walk away for a problem, take ownership, but it also means share it. Speak up when you think that you need help. And I think the benefit for working for larger companies, there is help, as long as you speak up.
Robert?
Well, of course, my career is not that old, so I don't know if it's succeeding. But I really prefer meeting new people and enlarging your network. And at any moment you are not enlarging your network, not meeting new people, I think that slowly decreases the chances and opportunities in the future. So especially as a young person, if you go work at a company, make sure you get new connections in that market or in that field, and it's a great way to meet a lot of people. That's an entrepreneur as well. Make sure you keep on connecting and find new people, because that's the way you create opportunities for yourself and get new knowledge and maybe inspiration. So that's definitely the most important thing. Although it's hard if you're running a company, because then you have to find your network maybe in your customers or companies in your field.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I think personally it's really important to realize very early on that no one actually is your friend. And people can be pretty cutthroat in the world around you, and the only person you can rely on is upon yourself. And I think very early on when I tried to found my first 2 startups, they both ended up going tits up. I don't know whether I can say that. And it was just because the people that I was getting involved with, I thought they were my friends, I thought they really believed in me and blah, 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 and it turned out not to be true. So you have to kind of understand, like, okay, you're the strongest person in your life actually has to be yourself and not someone else. And of course, you can look up to other people, and that's also why I also stress to everyone that mentorship is really, really important. It's really nice to have someone that is a lot older than you, who has been through a lot of stuff, that when you get in trouble, you don't start to go in your room and you start crying. As an entrepreneur, I think that happens. But the fact that you can pick up the phone and you're like, okay, I'm in trouble, what is your opinion? And how do you think I can best move forward? So yeah.
Okay, so your colleagues will never be your friends.
Well, no, there's a line between friendship and, of course, you can be good friends, but that's where you really have to separate business and friendship, especially when it comes to salary negotiations. Don't forget that.
Janneke, you have anything to add?
Yeah, there's many things, but I think it's very important to surround yourself with people that challenge you and are critical, instead of people that applaud you. Leave that to your parents, your partner, your friends, but that's sort of useless, because you need people to say, when you say, oh, we doubled, okay, why not triple? And I did something this way, why not that way? That constantly challenge you to be better. The people that always say yes and think everything is cool you do, you don't need them.
Right. Do you think entrepreneurship is romanticized at the moment? Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, start a startup.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's really cool to run a company. That's for sure. But you have to know what you're up to. I mean, you can't easily stop what you're doing. You are going to spend a lot of time with the same people for a very long period. So you're gonna find out a lot of happy things there. But yeah, again, I think you said, like, a typical trait for entrepreneurship is, okay, there's a certain risk to it, but there's also a very high reward, and being able to set your own direction and seeing your company grow and seeing things succeed is very, very rewarding. And I think that's the thing you have to go for, and not the lifestyle that comes with it or the appreciation that you're running a company, but really go for seeing your baby succeed. I think that's really why you should be an entrepreneur, not for the conference. I mean, it's a fucking cool conference. It's nice to meet people, but in the end, all we want to do is go back to our office and keep on building our company.
But I think I want to add one extra small comment to that is, if you do start your own company and it does start to go wrong, it's perfectly fine to take a step back, and when you believe it in yourself, where you're like, okay, this is too much and I'm not comfortable anymore, don't feel ashamed to step back and look forward and say, okay, what are my other options here? Because maybe I can do this in a year or so.
Thank you. Well, summarized, you learn as well as employee, as entrepreneur. And I think the best lesson we all have is happiness is loving what you do. And I think we all do that.
Yeah.
I hope you will do that too in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.